Hi, soul friends. It's Tannaz Hosseinpour, and welcome back to another episode of the Minutes on Growth podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with us, David Hulse. He is the founder of the Academy for Spiritual Awakening and a spiritual guide. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited for you having me today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, right before we hopped on, I was just sharing with David how I also have a background in religion and been on the spiritual journey and was watching his videos on YouTube, which I highly recommend you all to check out. And, there was a lot of content, especially on A Course in Miracles, which I really want us to dive into. But before we get into all of that, I would love for you to share with us a little bit about your spiritual journey, especially coming from a religious background, and what you mentioned, what you meant by the cellular awakening that you had mentioned. So I would love to hear
Yeah,
about that.
very good. Good. Well, I was raised in a very religious environment, both locally, geographically. I was raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which we were known for two things in Tulsa, the oil and oral, oil capital of the world and Oral Roberts. So it was a big environment to be raised in. So I was raised in a very fundamentalist Pentecostal, actually, background. But I say I had a different rapport with time and space from the very beginning, as long as I remember being conscious, that I just heard things differently and saw things differently. And, I would listen to all this fear-based religion and this vindictive God and all of this, and something inside my soul, my heart, didn't feel that way. So it started very early, and I think there's a whole critical mass of souls on the planet right now that have been born, what I call conscious born. And that's kind of a deep subject, but I believe that there's a group of souls who've incarnated through a different portal than the regular portal that most people incarnate into 3D
Mhm.
uh, experience, incarnation. And that's the people out there that might be listening to us who have said, um, I felt different. I've never fit in anywhere. The questions that I asked were upset people when I asked them because they didn't have answers for me. I think that's the people that I'm trying to reach out there and realize that this is your time. You're here for this time. I call them light workers. You can call them what we want, but there is a group of souls that we need to come together and really create this, co-create this shift that I think is trying to happen on our planet. So that's really what happened to me was very innate in me. It wasn't a thing of I heard another religion or I heard another thing and I said, I'll believe that. It came from inside myself.
Mhm.
And I chose to be true to that and follow that path. That led me back in those days, you could just start ministering because you got the call. And so I was 17 years old when I received what we call the baptism of the Holy Spirit and had quite an experience that set a spiritual trajectory for my life from that time on and started ministering. And but I've always been a searcher. And I'll tell you, one of the things that was a great change for me, I call it an epiphany moment, was uh, realizing that nobody in the Bible spoke English. And I thought, where did that thought come from? I would have never thought that, but this thought was kind of a Gnostic gnosis moment of a revelation. And I thought, well, if they didn't speak English, what did they say? So I started looking into Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, and studying the Near East culture, which I was very warned against, by the way. As you know, we're told to stay away from this Eastern stuff. It's, bad stuff. But yet everybody in the Bible is Eastern. So that's what changed everything for me as I started finding out that in the language they would have spoken was different than the English literal Bible. And that set me on a path that way. So I could go on and on because I've had so many twists and turns on my path. But really, the one I think you might be interested in is around 1980 One, when I went through a time of kind of losing my belief,
Mhm.
questioning everything I believed, everything I was preaching, ministering, and teaching, and was very upset that I thought, is this where this is going to end? And I was going to Denver, Colorado at that time every month and speaking to a little group. And they started giving me these little tapes, cassette tapes of somebody named Marianne Williamson. And she was just coming to Denver and beginning her career, actually. And the thing about Marianne's teachings of the course is was the language I'd already downloaded from my religion. So I could relate to the idea of Jesus, Holy Spirit, sin. Those were words I had in the program of my religion, but she was just taking that and turning it all around and shifting my perception to see it so differently. So that was a great bridge for me at that time. Now, I've never gotten uh, stuck in any one school of thought. I just haven't because I've gleaned from about everything that I've experienced, that I've ever studied, whether it was Buddhism, Hinduism, mystical Christianity, Essene teachings. I've just kind of gathered fragments, but I didn't gather things just because I liked the knowledge. I gathered them because they resonated my own innate intelligence.
Mhm.
I believe we come in with innate intelligence. I think we have everything when we incarnate that we need to reach the optimum level of our potential in every incarnation. And though I think people who allow themselves not to get stuck in any one religion or even one school of thought are people that really grow very quickly. And I think this is all about being on the planet to grow and to
Mhm.
mature and to what I call come to the next level of what it means to be human. I think this is really bioconscious evolution that is taking place today. So I don't mean to get so heavy into all of that, but that's kind of a short synopsis of how I got here.
That's so powerful. And as you were sharing, I was resonating with so much of what you were saying. And I'm just curious, um, what is source for you? What is the creator for you? I would love to know.
Wow, that's thank you for asking that. That's one of the great questions that I enjoy. I don't know how much I could uh, dive into this, but I think that's what I've been looking for over 6 decades to really find out what is this whole God thing, this whole source thing. And I have spent my time to kind of research and look into it. But let me tell you what happened to me that has given me some kind of a level to land at about this. It was good for me. Is that I was given my definition, and my definition is that the source, God, whatever you want to call it, universe, all basically is a non-local, undefinable consciousness interacting with itself. That's what gave me some kind of platform in which to move from. Because how do I define something that has no beginning, no end, uh, no birth, no death? I mean, you can't do it. It's truly the mystery to the human ego mind, this whole thing. But we have an innate faith in us that tells us there's something bigger than ourselves. I think that's just innate within everybody. And I think that we can't explain it, but I'm very, very leery of the word God, to be honest with you, because I think it holds a lot of religious baggage that concerns me. I came to the conclusion many years ago that the God of the Old Testament was not the Father of the Christ of the New Testament. I just had such trouble with the Old Testament God and found these horrible places where it was trying to burn people and just terrible things was going on in the Old Testament. And so I'm kind of known for a certain talk that I do called Who's Your Daddy? And what that talk is about, who is the father that fathers your thoughts? Do you have culture, society, religion, and outside sources that is fathered how you think about yourself, others in the world, or are you getting information from your inner self, your inner spirit? And because father means starter. So who is starting how you end up believing and thinking from the inside to the outside? So I think the father is our spiritual self, we call ourselves, our higher self.
Mhm.
That's called that. So this is a teaching that I've had for a long, long time. Um, I believe to understand really what God is to understand who we are. It's written on those temples in Greece and Athens, know thyself and thou shalt know thy God. And I think that this God that I can't describe, this undefinable, is the God who has used the spectrum of frequency to change its frequency from uh, infinite to multiverse to galactic to solar to planetary. So the time it ends up here planetary, then it becomes the spirit incarnated in us as us. So I think and religion has so divided that from us that I think we almost had, many of us had to get out of religion to really find our spiritual path.
I love that. And as you were speaking, I was thinking of, the beautiful quote, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes, that's a change of thinking, isn't it?
And removing these limitations, these divisive thoughts that have been kind of embedded into our culture, into our society, and kind of being in that expansive state is really powerful. You said something, and this vision came to me as you were speaking when you were talking about, this source, God, light, creator, whatever we want to call this entity that is bigger than us, and how um, that having faith, and there's so much research out there. I was actually in Southeast Asia for 4 months doing research on the correlation between faith and mental health, and how it really helps us navigate challenges with a little bit more grace and ease. When we say that I'm walking with source, I'm walking with light, so then in based on the definition that you're saying, it's saying I'm walking with this innate understanding within me, this higher self. I'm walking with my higher self. Is that right?
I think you said it very well. I do think it is what we call our higher self. The religion uses this term Holy Spirit,
Hmm.
but if you take the Holy and make it Whollly, you understand there's a part of our essence, our spirit that has been kept in the higher frequencies of our consciousness, and that's kept it away from the everyday consciousness, which can be manipulated and controlled by all the systems of our 3D world. And I think that's really what we call the sacred place within. The Bible called it the secret place of the Most High. And I think there is this place in our consciousness that is a higher state of consciousness that is in its wholeness. I taught for 25 years and trained people in sound therapy using vibration tuning forks. I just sold that company recently, but it was very successful all over the world. And one of the things that I taught practitioners was don't work with what is broken with people, work with their wholeness. Because I think we've been created whole. And I think that we have so identified with our body and with our outer exterior of ourselves that we see ourselves as in need and lack of something we need to get. I don't. I think we already have it in the higher atmospheres of our consciousness. We have just forgotten who we are. That's why I love the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles so validated that for me, that we are created whole as spiritual beings. But unfortunately, as we move through the different frequencies of our into our humanity such as our causal, astral, mental, emotional, and etheric part of ourselves, a lot of that purity and wholeness is lost
Mhm.
in the human consciousness. So the Course calls that being in a state of a dream state. We call it Maya or illusion state. So most everybody walking around is walking around in an illusion state of I don't have, I need to get. And I don't come from that. I come from the fact of, and I would tell my all my practitioners before you go and work with somebody, a client, heal your own mind first. Heal your own mind. The Course says that all consciousness is in contact with all other consciousness at a deep level. And we call that now the field of consciousness,
Mhm.
right? So the field of consciousness, where we all are one consciousness. And I said, come from that place with people and realize that the only thing that they need is to have what's blocking that. So it's not what can I do for you, what can I undo for you?
Mhm.
So we were trying to find these different blockages of unresolved issues from karmic issues, past life issues, whatever your issues are that you still carry within your etheric blueprint. And that's where I believe healing is. You know, everybody says that we have an aura. I say no, the aura has a body. The body doesn't have the aura has the body. We need to come from here to here, not just from here out there. So that wholeness, that etheric level of our memory is trying to get here, but it gets misinterpreted as it moves through the spectrum of vibration. But when all of that has not been taken care of coalesce into an etheric blueprint, cells of our body reads that blueprint to reproduce themselves. And as we know, cells are constantly dying and recreating themselves. So somebody said to me one time, if that's true, I have a friend who has a cancer of the liver. So if you get a new liver every 6 weeks, which is something Deepak Chopra said, we get a liver every 6 weeks, then why would I still have cancer after 6 weeks? I said, because you didn't change the blueprint that caused the cancer in the first place. So I started doing work in the etheric blueprint with tuning forks and finding what needed to be uh, released or undone in the sense of mispatternings of old emotions and different things like that. So there is a work to be done there in that area, no doubt about it. And so I'm very big on energy work. I'll tell you one thing that changed everything was just the simple statement of Einstein and some of those fathers of quantum physics who said everything is energy.
Mhm.
I thought everything had energy, but I never saw everything is energy. And that just changed everything for me. That I think we got to change the patterns in our energy before we really see it show up at the cellular level.
Mm. As you were sharing that, um, when you were talking about like the cancer and the blueprint, I thought of how in the Course in Miracles they define a miracle as a shift in perspective, a shift in perception. And it's like, how are you choosing to see this? And I love how you said like the holy and then just adding a W and making it like whole, like shifting the way you see it, which then like similar to what Anita Moriani had with when she healed herself and she would share it with Dr. Wayne Dyer and her book Dying to Be Me.
Right.
So many of these examples, and we're living in a time where now science, like people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, are coming and backing it up with science and saying, yes, everything exactly as you said is energy.
It is energy, and I think that's where we're going. I almost think that the word spirit needs to become the word energy. I think spirit still is a lot of religious connotation to it. I think the language is starting to change a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. You were talking about like some of these belief blockages, and you mentioned in your work that emotional and belief-based blockages, they act as obstacles to healing, similar to the cancer that we discussed. Can you give us some other like common examples that you've seen, and how people can begin to overcome them?
Very good. I think we have to start with looking at our what we've qualified as our belief systems. I think the fact that so much of our belief systems still are, the source is outside of ourselves, that we don't have a belief systems that are matching our innate intelligence system. There's a discrepancy between what I know and what I understand. And that's where the teaching part comes in so powerfully, is to find teachers who are not trying to disempower you, but teachers that's trying to empower you with the fact that I have it, you don't, I can give it to you. Rather, you already have it, but I'm going to facilitate and awaken it in you. Because I believe the only thing that really gives us our power is self knowledge. I'm very big into studying the Gnostic school of thought, which I think is going to be very important to a lot of people to look into what Christianity was for the first 2 centuries before it was organized into an institution. And to find these people who were seeking one thing, and that was direct knowledge, which is the word gnosis in Greek. So most of what I teach, I'll say the majority of what I teach is what I got through gnosis, not just what I read in books or what I read in the Bible or what other people said. And I go, oh, I like that. I think I'm going to qualify that as my belief. I waited for the experience of it to to quicken. I like the word quicken. It quickened in my soul, and I went, oh, this must be my truth. And then I qualified it. So what I'm saying to you is I think that people have to realize that a lot of what they have believed throughout their life stream has become a blockage at an unconscious level. And the thing that concerns me, that maybe people disagree with me, but a lot of people think that just shifting intellectually is enough. To go from negative thinking to positive thinking, to think differently. No, I think it's much deeper than that. I think you can't just change your mental thoughts. I think you've got to find that innate knowing inside yourself. Then you qualify it. And there's something that I call it's called self-knowledge, but I think that everybody who has an experience of direct knowledge from the higher atmosphere, the higher frequency, we'll say spirit, light from the light area, and qualify that, changes the whole frequency of their environment. And that means then that people who are really on a spiritual path and are really doing the work today are finding out that a lot of stuff that has been not recognized for lifetimes, for past times, is emerging. It's kind of like the buildup of toxicity.
Mhm.
After a point, it starts showing up. And of course, I think that's happening in the world, and it's happening in America right now. I think what you're seeing right now is very spiritual. I know that's hard. It's hard for me because I had a way that I wanted to see everything go. That was the better way, it looked like. But the better way isn't always the spiritual way.
Mhm.
So spirit is doing something today to bring out all of our pathologies and bring it up and emerge upon the body politic. In other words, I think that what's going on in the world today, in many areas, politically and whatever, is really a very spiritual thing in the fact that it is the breakdown of the old 3D system, while at the same time there's a breakthrough of a 5D and beyond system that's coming in. And I want to say to all of us that are listening, and to you and to me, that it's no accident we are here at this time. And people just have to feel that. You just have to get that one for yourself. But you're not an accident living at this time, but you're here with purpose. And that's what we want to help people in the academy, is to help to find, what is my purpose? Why do I think differently than, say, my own family or the society or the religion I was raised in? What is uniquely different about me? And I think once we awaken to our true purpose, to why we are here, and tap into that inner innate knowledge within ourselves that we are going to transform. I know this is Bible, but it comes to me that thank God we shall not all sleep. This is in 1 Corinthians 15. Thank God we shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. Now, that's an interesting scripture, even though it's in the Bible. But if you unpack that a little bit, you'll see one, we're asleep. We're asleep. We're asleep in the illusion, a matrix, a simulated world system that has literally put us asleep to ourselves. And that's why I call this the Academy for Spiritual Awakening, is because I think there is an awakening that is happening. And I think it's going to grow and grow and grow. So I'm excited about what is happening, but it's hard to watch what's breaking down. When I started Some Energetics, I was asked, do you want to try to fix what's breaking down or work with what's breaking through? And it just came out of somewhere in my being. I'm going to work with what's breaking through. And that's what I built that whole teaching on, was breakthrough. Because if there's breakthrough, then there's going to be breakdown.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I could go deeper, but that's kind of the way it has worked for me at this time.
So powerful. But can we take a moment, David, and talk about the courage, first, the courage to kind of question a lot of our beliefs and the process. I know for me, the process of breaking it all down and sitting in that confusion, that what, you know, who am I? This who am I question. And I know for me, a lot of Sufism, Sufi mysticism really helped me navigate that by like Shams's words and Rumi's words. And like, I kept repeating to myself, the wound is where the light enters you. So like, it's okay, like break down and like break open. But we can't also like negate that sometimes it's really challenging work. For me, it was that, that whole process and just opening myself up to the potential of infinite possibility and that expansiveness. And especially for people who are in, exactly as you said, like, growing up in that community where there's one way or the high, that's it. This is the belief system. We all have to be with there. And then if you don't have that belief system, you're the outsider. And, people start to attach labels to you and you lose friends, you lose family. Can we talk a little bit about that and holding space for that?
Well, it is true. I've certainly paid my price to get out of. My aunt was my own pastor, which is amazing if you think about in fundamentalism, a woman being a pastor was an amazing thing. So I was very, my uncle was the presbyter of the denomination. So it was very, very strong with me. I could have had it made if I'd have stayed there. I'd have had all the support in the world, but I chose to move away from that. So I've been through what it feels like to be misunderstood and to do all of that. But you know what? I don't consider myself by nature a strong person, but I'm very strong in my spiritual walk. And I think it's because I was prepared before I came here. I had an experience, a real experience many years ago in which I was seeking an answer for something to do with anger that was kind of innately in me that I didn't recognize. I'm not an angry person, but I just had this anger. And long story short, I started when I found out about people who did past life readings and things. I did some of that. It was interesting, but that wasn't it. But what really happened to me was an in between before this life. And I experienced what it was like to prepare for this lifetime. And I realized I co-created this life. It was the most amazing experience because I felt no God over me. I didn't feel anybody making me do anything. Uh, but they were reviewing me and they were asking, and I feel to tell this. I think there must be somebody that had ears to hear this, but they were telling me that for me, and I think for others, we're in our last lifetime in the 3D world. There's no more coming back into this dimension. This truly is the end of the world. If you can take that and understand what I mean, the end of this age
Mhm.
has come upon us. And I think that there are people who have been prepared to walk through this lifetime with intensity. I don't know how to say it. I really do, because I'll just give you my experience. I was told the fact that we're a free will planet, that we have not reached critical mass through free will to reach the level of consciousness to stabilize the new norm that is coming into the planet. That they were looking for people who would volunteer to be prepared to live how many lifetimes it would take in linear time to attain it in this lifetime. Now, why I'm saying that, this is what I was angry about. I was angry that I started preaching at 17, didn't graduate, didn't go to a prom, didn't finish growing up, and I was thrown right out there. Pastored my first church when I was 19, and I was just kind of angry at this whole thing that some God would call this 17-year-old kid to go out into full-time ministry and do that, because I thought the world was coming to an end and all that. So when I found out that I wasn't a victim, but that I said yes, I started realizing that everything that has happened in my life, I'd equipped myself for it. Does that make sense to you? In other words,
100%.
I think back on my life and I think, how did I do that? How did I get through that? But I did, because I had this inner strength to draw from, of that I brought in with me to make sure that I had everything that I need to make it through this lifetime to get to my state of a higher consciousness or a state of awakening. And I think that's for all of us, you and everybody else. I think whatever you've been through, you've been prepared before you came to endure that and to come out on the other side with higher consciousness, with greater compassion and whatever. So I hope that helps. I don't tell that very often, but it can open the door there for me to say to people out there that and I'll just throw in a scripture because it comes to me. I shall not put up on you more than you can bear. You will make it. I don't care how bad it looks, how bad you think it gets. You can have that inner strength within you that you can really make it through anything, because you're on a journey toward the awakening
Mm.
experience.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't usually talk about this either, but as you were sharing, I felt this like um, innate desire to talk about this, of taking it one step further. And for me, there's this belief of, we come as person A and the goal is to leave as person B, and the soul kind of chooses the circumstances to help evolve the level of consciousness. And that includes choosing the family that we are born into. I would love to know what your thoughts on this are.
Totally agree. I know for myself, I did. I'm an only child, good family. I mean, good parents, good, just good people, loved me very much. But I look back and I thought, how did they let me go at that age and go out into the ministry and continue to support and love me and whatever? But I realized we had this connection before I came. We had this agreement. Maybe we've had past lives together. I don't know. But something was set up to work out so that this could be completed. So yes, I do think, and I know it's hard for people who have ended up in situations that have been very hard, abusive and whatever. But I tell you what, I teach people you can change your lead into gold. You can take the the experiences that you've had, the worst experiences you've had, and fire that with compassion and wisdom and understanding, that you could build an entire ministry out of helping other people who've experienced on that same level of frequency. There's a place in the book of Hebrews that says, "For God has taken from among man pertaining to things of God. How can the ignorant know the way unless we ourselves are compassed with such infirmity?" So, see, I'll give you an example. I've never had an issue with, say, drinking or alcohol. I've not been around any alcoholic family or members. So if somebody comes to me as a spiritual guide, which they do, and they say, pray for me. I'm trying to deal with alcoholism or something like that. I would just pray and say, stop it. You know that's bad for you. But if I had been there and gone through that and they came to me, I would meet them on the frequency of their experience. So everything you're going through gives you a unique frequency to meet people that will resonate with you from the heart and not from a place of just mental, mental type things of bad for you, don't do that type of thing, but really compassion. And I think there's a lot of people out there that really is looking for compassion and understanding. So I hope that makes sense to you that everything we've been through has not been in vain, but it's all been our teacher. It's all prepared us for this time that I believe we're entering into.
So powerful. I got goosebumps as you were sharing that, that turning that pain into purpose, that mess into a message, and just really loving this conversation. And for listeners who are new to exploring spirituality, what is one practical step that you suggest that they can take today to start their journey towards this spiritual awakening?
Well, I think you said it a while ago that at some point you just opened your heart, you just opened your life. And that's the first thing that you've got to do. In A Course in Miracles, the Holy Spirit says, all I need is a little willingness. That's not a lot, but yet it is a lot too, to really make that commitment to be willing to, okay, I'm open because whatever's going to come may rearrange my whole life. It may change my relationship with the world, my family, my companion. Everything could change because of it, but I'm willing to allow that to come into my life because I want to become aligned. That's what we're all looking for is at one-ment or alignment and between our spirit and our soul. Right now, our bodies and part of our soul is carrying the plan and purpose of the world, but our spiritual side of our soul carries the plan of the ages, the mystery of the divine that's awakening up in us. So I tell people definitely meditate. I know we just overworked that word, but it is meditation and learning how to not be always thinking and asking, but listening. And your heart is the best way. I'm a heart math person, teacher, and so I teach how to do heart breathing. How important it is to make sure you get into the heart, in where such wisdom lies. So that's what I would tell people to do. Then I would say to people from that, be very guided about what you read, what you listen to, and just don't be out there just searching for knowledge and information, but wait until it finds you. I have books in my bookshelf I didn't even know I had that sometimes fall out on the floor. Maybe I've had it 20 years, wasn't even interested in it, but now it's become something that I needed at that time. So I think right now be aware of how that the universe or whatever you want to call it brings things to you rather than you be out there. The Course in Miracles says we do not need to seek, for we have everything that we can ever seek for. Well, the only thing we do just need to seek for is just to remember what we have forgotten.
I love that. May we all have the courage and the willingness to be open to, this expansive experience. Um, so lovely hearing you speak and share your insights, and that you can tell that spirit is speaking, light energy is speaking through you. And that's such a
That's,
privilege to
an,
hear you
that's
speak.
another thing I'm really excited about is this new phenomenon that's happening of light language.
Mm.
In fact, I'm doing a workshop tomorrow on light language. This We used to call it speaking in tongues or glossolalia, but this is a whole different thing. And it's happening a lot out of Australia, New Zealand, and that part of the world, that these young people are beginning to go into sounds
Hmm.
that the brain doesn't understand the language of it. And I think it's because aspects of our consciousness is waking up
Hmm.
that that is pure light. And light has its own pure language. So I'm really excited about this. I think there's a great expansion of consciousness. Are you familiar with light language
Yes.
or
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you have.
Beautiful.
So that kind of excites me that because I've been doing this for 60 years,
Wow.
you know, the tongue thing. And but I didn't want the old Pentecostal thing. That was just a bunch of emotionalism. I wanted the real deal. And now I'm seeing these people that know nothing about that who are beginning to go into light language.
Mm.
And I think it's exciting. That's happening too.
How can the audience, the listeners, connect with you and, learn more from you and be empowered by you?
Sure. I would love for people to check us out on the podcast, not podcast, but on the Academy for Spiritual Awakening. And we're offering something called an awakening sampler. So that gives you some free samples of different things. I start with Bible 101 for people who are still wrestling with, I want out, but I'm still worried. I'm concerned about sin. I'm concerned about all that kind of thing. So I've addressed all of that so we can help people on that area. So there's many, many levels on the path. There's going to be meditations. There's going to be times that you can be with me and in person, and we can have times like that. So all you need to do is just go to David Hulse, that's like your pulse, David Hulse, HULSE.com. Again, that's davidhulse.com. And you can get on there and look around and check it out. And I'd really appreciate uh, you that are listening to check it out and see if there's something there for you and become a part of this community to uh, help people to awaken more. Do you know when you awake, people think they're going to wake into paradise, but no, you awake to the truth of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go through that period of awakening to see, oh, this has been an illusion. This is not the reality of things. So anyway, it's an exciting time for all of us to be on the planet, no matter what it looks like through the sensory or perception. Shift your perception today. Go from fear to love and from the warrings of the mind to the peace that passes understanding. This is your choice today to do that. So let us all come from that place of love and peace.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David, for sharing with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm going to share the website in the show notes so the audience can access it. And I highly suggest it because I just love the message. I love the way you are expressing it. And again, that's such an empowering message of just reminding people of the power that lies within them that and just need to unlearn and, throw away some of those limitations and, the blockages and going back home. We are all just walking each other home around us. And
You know, according to the course, we never left home.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so, so
I
much.
want to thank you because you have a wonderful spirit about you, a wonderful presence about you, and an openness, and that means a lot. I never know who I'm going to get on here with in these podcasts, which I'm doing several of them, but this has been such a pleasant experience with you. Thank you for making it so easy to express myself.
I'm glad. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We'll speak soon.